Welcome everyone. Today we're going to do a short presentation of GuapSwap, decentralized miner profit swapping on Ergo platform. I'm Jesper Argo. With us today we have Salvarez and Luca D'Angelo. And first I'm going to talk a little bit about why GuapSwap became a thing. So GuapSwap came about because there's a need to improve the quality of life of miners in archaic tax jurisdictions. A lot of miners use profit swapping because they want to trade to tokens to get into DeFi, but at the current state of things, there's nothing available for that in Ergo. So we wanted to make something that was fast, transparent, and something for everyone to tap into. And of course, we wanted to make a contribution to the Ergo ecosystem.
So, I'm Salvarez, and I'll be talking about the product comparison. We're basically going to be talking about different products that are similar to GuapSwap, but most of them are on other chains, as GuapSwap is the first product that is actually going to do this on the Ergo blockchain. And things we want to look at is centralization, transparency, and how easy these different products are to use. So the first one we're going to go over is unminable. So unminable is very easy to understand and use for beginners. It's a very streamlined interface. It reduces the taxable events for its clients, just like GuapSwap does. It has lots of different tokens, and you can mine different algorithms with it, not including Ergo. So you can mine ETH, Ethereum Classic, Kapow or Raven, and RandomX, which is Monero. Some of the problems with it is it's fully centralized using a centralized exchange for payouts, which is something that GuapSwap avoids. There's a lack of transparency in regards to how the payouts actually work. There's a lack of transparency on how they're doing these swaps, if they have their own pool or if they're sending it to exchange. You're unable to see the pool stats at all, which is a problem. So you don't know how much hash rate is actually in the pool, how often the payout should be. They have their own mining software that seems inefficient in comparison to some other mining softwares, and you're only able to use the one mining pool for their service. Now, when we're looking at two miners will allow you to be paid out in Bitcoin and Nano, but only if you're mining ETH. It does alleviate the high gas fees for receiving ETH payouts, but that's really not an issue with GuapSwap because we're running on Ergo, which already has very low payout fees. It does reduce the taxable events, and there's no transaction fee at all for nano payouts. So they use a fully centralized exchange, again, for their payouts. You don't know what exchange it is, and again, you're only able to use their pool for the service. So if we're looking at NiceHash, which is kind of the opposite, so you can get paid out in Bitcoin only with them, but you can mine different algorithms. It's very easy to understand. You just run their software, and it'll take over mining on your computer. Some of the problems with NiceHash is that people can rent hash rate at NiceHash, which can open up different coins to a 51% attack if somebody rented enough of it and directed it at a certain pool and coin. There's a lack of transparency on how they're getting the Bitcoin, what they're using for a swap. There are frozen payouts in times of high sell pressure with them. When we're looking at GuapSwap, we're fully decentralized. We don't use any centralized exchange. We're using ErgoDex to do our swaps. There's a lot faster clearance on swaps because of the fact that we're using a DEX. We still reduce the taxable events, obviously, because that's what we're about. Fully transparent on our swapping method. You can read it on Ergo Explorer, see exactly what's going on. We're the first smart contract miner swapping protocol on Ergo. We interact with any Ergo mining pool or smart pool that will allow us to put a proxy contract. This allows clients to pick their favorite pool interface for tracking their mining rewards, which is really cool. And we got free refunds. If you decide that you don't want to do the swap after you've mined the proxy contract, you can go ahead and just refund that back to you. The only thing that's added to it really is that you have another step interacting with that proxy contract address. But other than that, like GuapSwap is ideal for decentralization.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the more technical aspects of GuapSwap and how it works on the back end. So here we show just a high-level protocol of what's happening when you use the service. So if you were to go to our GitHub, install the latest release, as a miner, this is what you have to do. So the first step, you'd want to fill out the config file where you'd input all the necessary settings for using GuapSwap, as well as the Ergodex settings, which would include things like the token you want to swap your mining rewards for. Once this config file is properly filled out, you would use the command line interface to generate a proxy address. So this proxy address is what you would use instead of your public key with whatever mining pool you're using, and then any rewards you receive from mining would be sent to this proxy address instead of your public key. And the reason we use a proxy address is to ensure that the funds that are locked at that address can only be spent in the specific way laid out in the contract. And this contract is open source, so you can read it and ensure that we aren't actually spending it in any funky ways. So in step 2, you would receive your payout, and this would create a box on the Ergo blockchain locked with the proxy address and your mining rewards in it. Then you would use the GuapSwap command line interface, and there's 2 different steps you can take. You could either do a refund, right? Either sending the money back to your own wallet, or you could do a swap. So the swap will create an Ergodex swap box with all of the necessary parameters that were calculated based on the information you provided in the config file. And then this swap box, as in step 4, would get picked up by the Ergodex bot service and actually execute the swap with Ergodex itself. And then you would go and look in your wallet, and you'd see the token deposited into your account. So this is just a slide explaining how the protocol fee works. So whenever you do a swap, a percentage is taken from your mining reward and sent to this contract. And in order for all 3 of us to withdraw the amount stored in this fee contract, the minimum amount that has to be within this or locked at this address is 1 erg, and it can only be spent if it creates 3 output boxes with each of our own addresses, and each one receives exactly 1/3 from the box. And then if there's any change left because of the division, the integer division, then it just gets sent back to another box with the protocol fee address. So I'm just going to briefly explain how the swap cell works on the Ergodex side. So we perform a Ergodex swap cell whenever you're using GuapSwap. So Ergodex, they use off-chain bots in order to pick up any Ergodex boxes and then execute the swaps, so that it's decentralized and they can occur faster. And whoever uses these bots, whoever runs them on their computer, gets a percentage as a fee. So at a high level, this works by having a UTXO tracker, which essentially just scans the blockchain for any boxes that have a specific address that Ergodex is looking for. And then once it finds one, it extracts the information in it, mainly the information for the order in order to execute, so the token, the amount, and then also the necessary pool information that you want to perform the swap with. and then once it has this information, it can execute the transaction, and then creates an output box with your public key and the swapped token that you chose. So this is just an overview of the config file on the right. So this is what you would fill out if you were to use GuapSwap. So from the get-go, you don't have to do anything with the node settings. It uses a public node URL. The only parameters you'd want to change are the GuapSwap protocol settings. So the protocol settings, you could change the swap interval, so for the automatic mode, and as well as the you'd also insert your user address because we want to know your public key in order to save it in the proxy contract, so that when you do a refund, it can only be you that actually can extract the funds out of it. And then in the DEX settings, you have the ticker you want. So any of the available tickers on ErgoDex that have an erg to this token you want, if there's a valid erg to token pair, then you can swap it. On our GitHub, we list all the available tokens. And then you can also modify the ErgoDex settings for the swap that you want. So the tolerance, the nitro, and the miner fee you want to pay. And all of this information is actually available in the ErgoDex docs in more detail if you want to read about how those things are calculated. And then on the left, these are the parameters in the ErgoDex swap cell contract. So whatever information you provide in the file, as well as the amount you received in mining reward, we use that to calculate all these parameters. And that's what we feed into the contract to create their ErgoDex box. And that's how the bots, when they pick it up, that's how they know what token you want to swap for and how to have calculate the right amounts. So I'll just go a bit over the proxy contract, what makes it possible, really. So we have two main concepts. First is context variables, and then the constants inside an ergo tree. So the first part, whenever the mining rewards get sent to the proxy address, and then you perform a swap with a GuapSwap, we need to somehow insert a copy of a template of the ErgoDex swap cell contract. And then within the proxy contract, it will substitute the constants inside this ergo tree and then compare it to make sure that it's the right format. And it compares it it also does the same calculation off chain to make sure that they're the same, thus sort of ensuring from a security perspective that only a correct ErgoDex box is created and that nobody else can spend your box in a weird way. So as I mentioned, an ergo tree is sort of the low-level code for ErgoScript. Everything is compiled to that. And then in an ergo tree, there's a section that's delegated to constants. And then we use the function substitute constants in order to take whatever values we calculated from your config file, and then substitute them into the template to generate a new ErgoDex swap cell ergo tree, but with your values instead of the template ones. So this is just a high-level overview of beta version of GuapSwap CLI and what our intentions were. So it's meant for the everyday miner or the solo miner. So you can use your own node if you want, but you don't have to, or the node that's a default. And if you decide to use your own node, you don't have to be a solo miner. It's all just used to interact with the blockchain. We use a secret storage to sign transactions. So you don't have to actually use your own wallet to sign transactions. We create one whenever the first time you use the CLI, and this way it just makes like interacting with the program a lot easier. You don't have to like manually insert a mnemonic. It's just sort of a more safe thing. It's intended for ease of use, so the CLI is very like user friendly, with help commands to explain what each command does. And we are fully open source, so you can check us out on GitHub and copy us if you want. But it is just a beta currently. We have more updates in the future that will add more functionality for miners. And now we'll just show you a live demo, a transaction, what it would look like if you were to use GuapSwap. So as you can see here on the Ergo Explorer, the first input on the left is the proxy contract address, and 0.131 erg was sent to it, and then the user performed a swap, and it output. The first output was the Ergodex swap cell like contract box. So it's a box, and this is the swap cell like contract address that gets picked up by the Ergodex bots. The second box is the service fee contract box. So we take 0.25%, and that's equivalent to this amount of erg. And then the 0.005 erg is the mining fee. So this address represents the address of a miner. So if we click on the first box, the Ergodex box, we can see what happened. So it got picked up by the bot, and then also, which is the second address, and then it also picked up the associated pool for the token that the person wanted to swap with. So whatever like token that they chose, it comes out from this liquidity pool, which is just a box on the blockchain. And then the bot executed the swap, and we can see that the first box again is just a pool. The second box is the user address. And if we can click, so like their wallet, so if you can click the +1, we saw that they traded for Cigars V. So the 0.131 got converted to 100. And then the other boxes are the like fee, Cigaric fee, and then the mining fee as well. And that's it. So if I go back, and this is just our references. So you can check us out on GitHub, send us an email, check out our link tree where there's more like links to community channels like Twitter, Discord, and we just want to have some acknowledgements for cheese enthusiasts, a user in the Ergo Discord and GetBlock Discord, the Ergo subpooling project that he developed, as well as Ergo 2. Thanks. Please like and subscribe.